Okay, so you know what blew my mind? We got this request for a deep dive, and it's into some seriously fascinating stuff.
Oh, yeah, lay it on me.
It's about human behavior, like how to spot lies, and even how to, like, build this mental toughness.
Oh, wow. So basically, how to become unmess with Abel.
Exactly. It's all about that unmess with Abel vibe, and it all comes from this interview with Evie Pampa.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Who's Evie Papa?
So she's this former Secret Service agent, which already sounds super cool, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
But she's also like this human behavior expert now. And she was on this YouTube channel called The Diary of a CEO.
Okay, I've heard of that one. So what kind of insights did she drop?
Okay, so strap in because this is where it gets really interesting. One of Papa's big things is this idea that if you're easily offended, you're easily manipulated.
Ooh, that's a good one. It's like you're giving away your power if you let every little thing get to you.
Exactly. And she actually learned this firsthand while she was training with the NYPD.
Oh, wow, no kidding.
Yeah, they had these drills where people would just shout insults at them while they were running.
Oh, man. That sounds intense.
Right. And her first instinct was to, like, yell back, you know?
Yeah, I can see that.
But her instructor was like, no way, you got to stay in control, even when people are trying to push your buttons.
It makes you think, right? Like, how often do we just react without thinking and then we end up feeling worse?
Totally. And Papa actually has this technique for staying calm in those situations.
Oh, really? I'm all ears.
She says you have to label the emotion you're feeling. So, like, if you're getting angry, you literally say to yourself, okay, I'm feeling angry right now.
It's like you're acknowledging it without letting it take over.
Yeah. It creates this space between you and the emotion. So you're not just automatically reacting. You can actually choose how you want to respond.
That's powerful stuff.
Oh, and here's another thing that just blew my mind. Papa talked about this study where they filmed people walking around New York City.
Okay, I'm picturing, where are we going with this?
So they showed this footage to a bunch of convicted felons, and they asked them, who would you pick as a potential victim?
Oh, wow. That's getting kind of dark.
I know, right? But here's the crazy part. They all picked the same people.
Serious, like they all zeroed in on the same individuals.
Yeah, and it wasn't about like physical strength or anything. It was all about body language.
So what were they looking for?
Well, they were either drawn to people who looked completely unaware of their surroundings, like they were just kind of oblivious.
Makes sense. It's like easy prey, right?
Exactly. Or they were drawn to people who look super timid and uncomfortable, like they were projecting this fear or weakness.
It's like they could sense vulnerability, almost like predators in the wild.
Right, and you know who they avoided?
Who?
The people who walked with confidence and purpose. Like they were aware of what was going on around them. They weren't afraid to make eye contact.
It's all about that energy you project, right? You can literally walk with confidence and make yourself less of a target.
That's what Papa says. And it really made me rethink how I walk down the street.
I'm with you there. I'm definitely going to be channeling my inner confidence from now on.
But, okay, let's switch gears for a second. Because Papa also talked about lie detection. And this is where it gets seriously cool.
Oh, I love this stuff. Tell me everything.
So she used to be a polygraph examiner, which basically means she's a human lie detector.
Wow, that's so cool.
And she says one of the biggest keying to spotting a liar is their body language.
Yeah, that makes sense. Lying takes a lot of mental effort. You have to keep your story straight. Make sure you don't slip up.
Right. So what happens is liars often become really still in control, almost like they're trying too hard to not give anything away.
It's like when you're trying to remember something and you freeze up for a second, your brain is just working overtime.
Exactly. It's like their brain is so busy trying to maintain the lie that their body just kind of shuts down.
So we should be looking for that sudden stillness or change in behavior.
Yeah, like if someone's telling a story and then they suddenly get stiff and quiet when you ask a specific question, that could be a red flag.
It's like learning a secret code. The more you pay attention to these subtle cues, the better you get at reading people.
And that's a skill that can come in handy in so many situations, right? Not just for spotting liars, but for understanding people's true intentions and motivations.
Absolutely. It's like having a superpower, being able to see through the facade and get to the heart of what's really going on.
All right, so we've talked about self-control and lie detection, but there's another piece to this unmess with Ekel puzzle that Papa talks about.
Okay, I'm all ears. Let's dive in. And it's all about setting boundaries, knowing your worth and not being afraid to walk away from situations that are just not good for you.
Yeah, like she tells this story about how she kept getting disrespected by some of her colleagues at the NYPD.
Oh, wow, really?
And it sounds like it was happening over and over again, and eventually she just hit her limit. It was like, nope, I'm done.
That's so powerful, though, because it's easy to get caught up in trying to please everyone or prove yourself, but sometimes the greatest thing you can do is just walk away.
Right? It's about recognizing that you deserve to be treated with respect. And if you're not getting that, It's okay to remove yourself from that situation.
So it's not about being aggressive or confrontational. It's about knowing your worth and setting those boundaries.
Exactly. Okay, so we've talked about self-control, lie detection, boundaries, but Papa has one more tool that I think is just so fascinating.
Oh, yeah? What is it?
It's called the animal wheel. And it's basically a way to like categorize different communication styles.
I think I've heard of that one. It's like assigning animal personalities to different types of people, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it's not about putting people in boxes or saying that someone is always one way or another. It's more about understanding that people communicate differently.
And that can help you navigate those interactions a lot smoother, right?
Totally. So are you ready to meet the animals?
Oh, yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so first up we have the lion. The lion is super direct, assertive, always in charge. They're the ones leading the conversation, making decisions, taking action.
You definitely know when you're dealing with a lion, there's no mistaking that energy.
Right. Then you have the mouse. The mouse is more quiet, observant. They listen carefully. They ask thoughtful questions.
And sometimes the quietest people in the room have the most insightful things to say, right?
Absolutely. Okay, now let's talk about the monkey. The monkey is the social butterfly, the charmer, the one who can talk their way into or out of anything.
I know a few monkeys. They're definitely fun to be around, but I can also see how they could be manipulative if they're not careful.
Right. It's all about paying attention to their intentions. Are they genuinely trying to connect, or are they using their charm to get something from you?
It's like you got to read between the lines a little bit with the monkey.
Okay, and last but not least, we have the T-Rex. The T-Rex is blunt, direct, not afraid to tell you exactly what they think.
Oh, yeah. The T-Rex doesn't hold back. They just say what's on their mind, whether you like it or not.
And sometimes that can be refreshing, right, because at least you know where they stand, but it can also be intimidating.
Especially if you're not used to that kind of direct communication style.
So how do you think you adapt your communication style when you're dealing with a T-Rex?
Well, I think it's important to be equally direct and assertive. Don't try to beat around the bush or sugarcoat things.
So it's like meeting their intensity with your own.
Yeah, but in a calm and collected way. You don't want to get into a shouting match or anything.
It's about standing your ground without letting their energy throw you off balance.
Exactly. And I think that's a good rule of thumb for communicating with anyone, really. Knowing your own style and being able to adapt to different personalities.
This whole animal wheel thing is so cool. I'm already starting to categorize people in my life.
It's a great tool for building stronger relationships and avoiding those unnecessary conflicts.
And it's not about putting people in rigid categories. It's more about being aware of these different styles and kind of adjusting your approach accordingly.
Right, because at the end of the day, we all just want to be understood and to connect with each other on some level.
And that leads perfectly into Pampa's next big idea, which is all about mastering the art of neutrality.
Neutrality. What do you mean by that?
So it's not about, like, not taking sides in an argument or anything. It's more about not getting swept up in the emotional roller coaster of life.
So basically staying calm and level-headed no matter what's happening around you.
Exactly. Pampa calls it the neutrality mindset. And she says it's essential for handling high-pressure situations and making clear decisions.
Because if you're constantly reacting to everything, you're not really in control. You're just letting your emotions dictate your actions.
And that can lead to all sorts of problems, right?
Oh, absolutely. But if you can cultivate that neutrality mindset, you're able to stay grounded and think rationally, even when things are chaotic.
It's like having this inner peace that can't be shaken, no matter what life throws at you.
So how do you actually cultivate this neutrality mindset? Any tips from Pampa?
Well, she talks about the importance of detaching from outcomes.
Detaching from outcomes. What does that mean?
It means letting go of the need to control everything. Because you can control your effort, you can control your actions, but you can't always control the results.
That's so true. We often get so caught up in the what-ifs and all the potential outcomes, and it just creates so much anxiety and stress.
Right. But what if we could just let go of that need to control everything? What if we could just focus on doing our best and then surrendering to whatever happens?
It's like trusting that the universe has got your back.
Yeah. And Papa actually shares a really great example of this from her own life.
Oh, yeah? What is it?
So when she was writing her book, Becoming Bulletproof, she decided not to stress about whether it would be a success or not.
That's a bold move, especially when you're putting so much of yourself out there.
Right, but she just focused on writing the best book she could, and then she let go of the rest.
And that allowed her to stay calm and focused throughout the whole process.
Exactly. It's about doing your part and then trusting that the universe will take care of the rest.
So it's not about being passive. It's about channeling your energy into the things you can control and then letting go of the things you can't.
And that detachment allows you to stay grounded and centered even when you're facing challenges or uncertainty.
It's like that serenity prayer, right? Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
That's a perfect way to put it. And sometimes the most courageous act is choosing to walk away from a situation that's no longer serving you. which brings us back to the importance of boundaries.
It's all connected, isn't it? Self-control, lie detection, boundaries, communication styles, neutrality. It's all part of this bigger picture of becoming mentally strong and unmess with evil.
It's like Papa is giving us a blueprint for navigating the complexities of human behavior and building a life where we feel empowered and in control.
And it's not just about surviving, it's about thriving.
Yeah, so before we wrap up, Papa left us with one final thought that I think is so important to unpack.
Okay, I'm ready. Hit me with it.
It's this idea of victimhood. Like she challenges us to think about the role that victimhood plays in our lives.
That's an interesting one. What do you think she means by that?
Well, I think it's about recognizing those times when we kind of get stuck in that victim mentality. Like when we're blaming other people for our problems or using our past hurts as an excuse to not move forward.
Yeah. It's so easy to fall into that trap, though, right? Because it's like our brains are kind of wired to protect ourselves, so we look for reasons why things haven't gone our way.
Right. And sometimes those reasons are totally valid. Like if you've experienced trauma or abuse, it's important to acknowledge that and seek support.
Absolutely. But I think what Pump is getting at is that sometimes we hold on to that victim identity even when it's no longer serving us.
Yeah. It becomes like a comfort zone almost. Like it's easier to stay stuck in the pain than to face the fear of moving on.
It's like we're afraid of what might happen if we actually take responsibility for our lives. What if we fail? What if we get hurt again?
It's scary to think about, but I also think there's so much power in recognizing that we have a choice. We can choose to stay stuck in that victimhood, or we can choose to reclaim our power and move forward.
And that's really the essence of what Pump is teaching us, right? It's about becoming unmess with able, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally.
It's about taking ownership of our lives, our choices, our responses to the world around us.
It's about recognizing that we're not defined by our past or by the things that have happened to us.
We always have the power to choose how we show up in the world.
Yeah. And that's a really empowering message.
So this whole deep dive has been quite a journey. It's like we went through this intensive training program on human behavior and mental toughness.
I know, right? We learned about self-control, lie detection, communication styles, boundaries, neutrality. It's a lot to take in.
It is, but it's also valuable. And I think the key is to just take it one step at a time. Start incorporating these tools and techniques into our daily lives.
And see what happens, right? Like, what's the worst that could happen? We become more resilient, more confident, more unmess with able.
Exactly. So what resonated most with you from this deep dive? What are you going to do differently moving forward?
That's a good question. I think for me, it's the idea of setting stronger boundaries. I have a tendency to be a people pleaser, but I'm realizing that it's okay to say no sometimes and to put my own needs first.
I love that. And for me, it's the neutrality mindset. I'm going to start practicing those techniques that Papa talked about, like detaching from outcomes and labeling my emotions. I think it could really help me stay grounded and centered.
Yeah, it's all about finding those tools that work for you and then just practicing them consistently.
It's a journey, right? But it's a journey worth taking.
Absolutely.
So that's it for this deep dive into the world of human behavior and mental toughness. We hope you found it as insightful and empowering as we did.
Remember, you have the power to create the life you want. So go out there and be unmess with able.
We'll catch you next time with more mind-blowing deep dives. Until then, stay curious, stay resilient, and keep exploring.